things first, however, I needed to turn this little enclosure into a blank canvas. All of the dirty old substrate out and straight in the bin. Sprayed and scraped the glass of any old water residue. Hoover out all the last bits of dirt in the cracks and crevices. And here we go, time to start the fun stuff. Using some bigger pieces of wild tree bark with some lovely natural mosses, it was time to start looking at the scape. Once I was happy with the placement, it was ready to be secured with expanding foam. "24 hours later, once the foam had cured, I picked off all of the shiny outer layer, which not only shapes the foam how you want, but gives whatever you use as a background something better to adhere to. I am using grout, and once again in a putty-like consistency. If you saw the leopard gecko build, you will have seen just how good a method this is, hence why I'm doing it again. If you haven't seen that build, please consider doing so after this, as it's my best build to date. Grout applied, it was time to smooth and texture it with this wet sponge. This makes sure the grout doesn't stick to the sponge and peel off of the foam, and also gives it an aesthetically pleasing texture. Fast forward another 24 to 48 hours once the grout has dried, and it was time to paint. I didn't use the wet acrylic spray method this time, purely because of how small this enclosure is, and I also wanted to try and refine my dry brushing skills. I'll be honest, I still don't think I'm quite there yet. After a few different layers and passes with different colour mixes and patching, I was fairly pleased, but once again, it was time to let it all dry. Background dry and ready for the next step, I added some aquarium grade silicone onto certain patches, and then began to start sticking on the sphagnum moss. I was going for almost a hanging moss look, but I still wanted to be able to see some of the background. But this moss, of course, will help hold some of the humidity in this very small enclosure. On top of this, I also decided to add a small feeding ledge using a piece of cork bark. I stuck it in position and then added some moss onto that as well to try and tie it all in. Very, very quick intermission, my friends, before we carry on. Massive shout out to my Patreons. Love you, appreciate you. The help you are giving me is, well, helping. Weird that, isn't it? But yes, thank you, appreciate you. For those of you that are curious and want to help me that little bit more, the link will be in the description below. 100% of the money goes back into the reptiles and my builds and my upgrades and all of that. You have my word. Link will be in the description if you're interested. Let's carry on, shall we? Next up, drainage layer. A nice depth of leaker balls line the bottom of the enclosure. Covered by a mesh barrier to separate drainage and substrate. And then my substrate mix added on top of that. Next up was my plants. This enclosure looked bigger in my memory when I was choosing a plant from B&Q because, as you can see, this Swiss cheese monstera is quite big. But I continued with it because I thought this would be good climbing and hiding opportunities for this tiny little gecko. Added some sticks and twigs for more climbing opportunities. added my leaf litter, and we all know how I feel about leaf litter. Gave it a really good spray down, and finally added this spare Arcadia Shade Dweller Mini T5. And that was that. Now, as you can see at the minute, no LED or overhead heat, but it's in pretty much a temperature controlled room anyway. This room will not drop below sort of, well, now I've got the heater in here, it won't drop below sort of 17, 18 degrees at night. And at the minute, midday, 25 degrees. So temperature wise, absolutely fine in here. It's a New Caledonian species, so it's not a problem with that. But we've got a little bit of UV exposure, got some food, got a little bit of added heat, got a little bit of light. Obviously I'll upgrade as I go along, but for the meantime, as a little baby juvenile setup, lovely. One last little look before we go. It has been set up for a week or so now, and actually apart from this Monstera leaf, which I think was a bit yellow anyway, it's actually looking all right. Obviously the painted background you can't really see anyway, so it was almost pointless, but not really, because I still like having it done. But yeah, it's looking really, really good. Really good. I'm really happy with that. And there you have it, my friends. All done, all set up, good to go. Like I say, no occupant at the moment. Rest in peace, little buddy. It's a shame that it didn't make it, but like I say, it was born 2 grams, which is pretty much half the weight that they're usually born anyway. So the odds were against us, but listen, it happens. Okay, it's a shame, it's sad. Unfortunately, these are sometimes things we have to deal with. So yes, it's a shame, but anyway, with regards to the build, I hope you enjoyed the build. I hope you like the look of it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you do anything different. Other than that, my friends, please like, comment, share, subscribe, all of the good stuff, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.